Hey, welcome with Motion with Nas. I really hope you've been enjoying my content so far. And today's video, this is what we are going to be creating. We are going to be creating a map animation scene. And this is actually one of your requests. One of you guys request. No, one of you reached out to me on Instagram and requested I should do something like this. So here it is. So just in case you have any other kind of request, make sure you leave that in the comment section. I'll be happy to, take on whatever challenge you throw at me. You know the drill. Make sure you like the video, and of course, if you are yet to subscribe to my video, come on, subscribe. All right, let's get to the video now. So first, I would like to let you know that we have the image we are going to be using this picture, which is the map, right? Which contains the map. This is where it is. And what I need to do now is just create my composition, and I'm just going to name this the main composition. Of course, I have to change this to full HD, use 30 frames per second. 10 seconds is good for the length. And now this is the main composition, and also I'm going to take the image itself and I'm just going to click and drag into a new composition, and it's actually going to create a composition for it all by itself. All right, so all I need to do is just drag this out now, and I'm just going to rename this to map. Okay, I'm going to take the map. I'm going to go to my main composition. I'm just going to drag the map here. As you can see, it's quite large, so I'm just going to scale this down until it fits to where I want it to, and I think this just works. This works for me, so I'm just going to minimize this now, and I'm going to go into the map itself, and as you can see, this is what I have. I'm going to create a new solid. I'm going to make sure it's white, so I'll just name it let's say white background, right? I will not use pure white. I'll use something close to it, so click OK. I'm just going to drop this down. The reason I'm doing this is because the color here is actually kind of too saturated a little bit, so I actually want to diffuse it a little. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to reduce the opacity to about, let's say, 40%. Right, let me do 50%, and if I zoom in I can see the details. So this is practically what I really want to do. So we are done in the map composition. I'll go back to main, and then we need to start creating the camera now. So I'll go to layer, new. I'm going to create a new camera, and I'm going to use, I can use the smaller lenses. The smaller the lenses, the more distortion you get. So you can use 35, I'll stick to 28 for now, and I'm just going to click OK. So I'm going to toggle switches and mode and activate the 3D function for the layer. So if I click this, you can see I have my Y, X, and Z axis now. So now that we are done with the camera, I can select the camera. I can go to the camera tool here. This orbit round cursor tool, and then I can pan around left and right. You can see now we can now move all of this, but we're actually not going to be using the camera tool for this. I'm going to be creating a null, but before we go into deep to that, I want to create the rest of the animation. That means the line and the bust and the rest of it. So let's do that. Let me zoom in a little bit. So I'll go ahead and create a solid, and I'm going to name this line. I can change the color of this to something like this, right? So I'll click OK. I'm going to mask it to create a line. So for me to be able to create the line that I want, right, because I want to create a line from one country to another, right? If I want to draw the mask, I might not be able to see it. So like if I click and start drawing mask, I won't see it. So I have to hide it first and then start drawing the mask. So I'm actually going to start from here, click and drag. I'm going to change the color of the mask to something that we can easily see. Let's do red, right? So click and drag, and I would land here for now. Okay, and then I'll hold down Alt to control this, right? Let's say something like this, and I'll click somewhere here and drag here. So let's say we are ending the map here in Nigeria. Okay, so with this I have my mask, but if I activate this, of course this is what I have. So all I need to do is to apply stroke to this. I'll click here, apply the stroke effect. So apply it to the solid, and let me activate it now. And this time around I'll go to the effect control, which is here, and let me move this to the side so I can only see my project panel on this all the time. Yeah, I can change the color of the stroke. Yeah, I'll change it to this blue color that I have here, right? I'll click OK, and then I'll increase the brush size to about, let's say 5. But now it's very hard to see, right, as it is right now. So I'll come down here, which is the paint style. I'm going to change this to untransparent, and with that you'll be able to see the lines clearly, right? And I think with this is looking good. All we need to do now is to go to the spacing and then increase the spacing quite a lot. So let me just zoom into this, increase the spacing to about 100% actually, and we have the line space. So the next thing we need to do is to animate the lines, right? So I would go into the end property. So let me just click and drag. Can you see? By clicking and drag, you can see the end property being animated. So at 0 second, I'm going to set this at this point. Then I'm going to move my time locator to 3 seconds, and I'm just going to move this enough to get to that particular point. Let me zoom in so I can be precise. So if I do one more pixel, so it's already having that. So let me just 68.5, so I can just have that last dot. Great. So that's what I have here, and then I'll go to the 4 second mark. I want this to wait again, so I'll click this, press U, copy and paste this keyframe here so that this will remain the same. And I'll go to the 7 seconds rather, and I'll just change this to 100%, right? And if I scroll over this, you can see that from here to here we have this animation, and then it lands here, right? Quite simple. So all I need to do is just highlight all of this, and I'll make it easy ease. So keyframe assistant, easy ease. So I have this really simple animation going on here. So the next thing I would like to do now is to add a drop shadow effect to this, so that to set the depth of the 3D. So let me click on the line and then add drop shadow to this, and I will drag this down, right, and increase the distance a little bit. So let me do, let's say 23 for the distance, and I will reduce the opacity to about, let's say 25. Let's see how that looks like. It looks very faint, so let's increase it a little bit. Let's say 28. We now have the drop shadow. And then the last thing before we actually go into the 3D animation is to create a burst. When this arrives at each point, we want to have a burst, a simple burst. So I'll quickly create that. I'll create a new composition, make this 500 by 500, name this circle burst, maybe 5 seconds. I can make sure this is 5 seconds, and I'll click OK. And all I need to do is I'll go to my shape tool, switch to the ellipse tool, and make sure it's white, and I'll just double click on this. Because it's perfect square, it's going to give me a perfect circle by when I double click on it. And all I need to do now is just to apply scale animation to this. So I'll go to the 1 second mark, click here, press S, scale, then change this to 0, and I'll just highlight this, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease, go to the graph editor, and I'll do something like this, right? Let me play this, right? I think this works, right? So all I need to do now, for me to have that burst, I'll duplicate this, and I just offset it by one. I'll offset it by 1 frame. So drag this back by 1 frame, and I'll click on toggle switches and mode, come here, and then change the blade mode to silhouette alpha, right? So what that will do is to just cut it out, right, as it is, because I've offset it by 1 frame. So that's why it's giving us that kind of stroke animation, right? So if I play this now, right, I have something like this, which is really cool. I would like to cut all of this off from here. I'll use Alt back bracket to cut it off. That's shortcut to shorten your layers. And I would, I like this to duplicate it, drag them up, then offset them by, let's say by 6 frames. So if I play this now, yeah, I have this. I think this is good. And at this point, I click on N to shorten my work area, right click and click on trim work area. So if I play this now, I have something like this, and my circle burst is ready. So I'll go back to my main composition, and I'll bring my circle burst and drop it here. And I just need to target where it's going to be landing, which is somewhere here. So I'm going to drag this somewhere here, down here, and I'm just going to take it to that point. my snap is actually on. So if you want to have that snap thing that just happened, just make sure you enable your snap, and this snap along edges too is also activated. So you can see it's snap to that, and I'll just have to reduce the scale a little bit. So I'll reduce it to about, let's say, 36 pixels. Now really small. So all I need to do right now is to make sure it's timely. So when it goes lands, I think that just works great. Maybe it's a little bit too early. Okay, that works. And then I'll go to the next one, lands here, duplicate the bust, drag this to this point, then adjust this to this point. And then you can actually develop this by introducing text and putting the name of the countries. That will actually be great but for the sake of time, I might not be able to do that, but you get the gist. You can keep developing more stuff with this. So the next thing now is to now start doing the 3D animation. So quickly I'll create a null, and I'm going to name this cam con, which is camera control. So I'm just going to drag this down on top of the camera. Actually, I like to drag all of them up, the camera and null up, and I'm going to make sure it's 3D, then parent the camera to the camcon, right? And at this point I'll have to adjust the camera the way I want it to look like. So I'll click this, I'll click on P so I can have the controls. And again, I should not forget I need to activate 3D for the bust as well, right? And also 3D for the lines as well, so I to go alongside with the rest of the 3D layers. So I'll activate 3D. The 3D is already activated for the null. So right now I just need to zoom in a little bit, and let me see where the line starts from. Start from here. So I'll try as much as possible to make sure that this is at the center. I'll go to the rotation, which is going to be us orientation and the rotation properties, and I'm just going to tweak this a little bit. And at this point I'm going to set my position here, then go to my rotation, and then I think I would like to still adjust some of the variables. Maybe I'll do 26 here degrees, and I'll do one more to this, that'll be 18 degrees. So yeah, I think this works just fine, and maybe I can still drag it down a little bit more because I want that to be centralized. Right, I think something like this would do. So if I click this and press U, right, let me press R for rotation, then I'll set all of this. So if I press U, I have this animation set, then I'll go to the 3-second mark, and then I'm actually going to move this now. And for the Z, I don't think I have anything. I'll just copy and paste there, right? And then I'll hold this animation for another 1 second. So I like all of these. Ctrl C, Ctrl V here, and then I'll go to the 7th-second mark, and I'll just adjust this accordingly. But I like all of this now and do easy ease, and then I'll just do something like this. No, maybe I don't need to touch it. I think it's good the way it is actually. So if I play this now, right, so this is how you achieve this. But then we are not done. We want to set the depth of field, right? So for creating depth of field, you can actually do it in various ways, but the best is to actually activate depth of field in the camera, but that can actually slow down the system if you don't have a strong machine, right? So the method I'm going to be doing is just like a shortcut to creating a fake depth of field. So follow along as I do this. So I'm going to create a new solid, and I'm just going to make sure this is black, right? I'll name this blur map, and I'll click OK, and I will add an effect called circle. So all this will do, just apply circle. So if I solo this now, it's just applying circle, and anything here will be be transparent. So if I increase the radius here, you can see. But right now I don't want this to be transparent, so I'm going to add another effect, solid composite, and I'm just going to change the color of the composite to black, right? And I have my blur radius. Let me just put it on top for now. Here what I would like to do, I'll increase the radius to about, let's say, 490, and I'll open this up I'll open the feather up and I'll increase this to about, let's say 658, right? So to increase the blur a lot, so we have something like this. So you can also use gradient ramp for something like this, but I just feel like this gives me more control with the use of the radius and all, right? So this is going to be our blur map, so it's actually we don't actually need to see it. Now I'm going to create an adjustment layer and I'm just going to name this camera blur, or I can name it flake blur, anyone. So I'm going to add camera lens blur to this, right? And this time around I'm actually going to I'll go to blur map. I'm going to use our blur map here, and I'm going to make sure it's effect and mask. That's what I'm choosing here. I'm going to increase this to about, let's say 12 pixels. As you can see, for now you can see that the center is actually quite blurry, but the edges are not blurry. And what is happening here is this camera lens blur is making use of the black and white values of the blur map, right? So that is why the center, where there is white, it's blurry. When there is black, it's not blurry. So it's making use of the dark, or the black and white values, basically, right? So all we need to do to correct this, because we want the center to be sharp, is to come to invert blur map. When you do that, it's actually going to create the opposite effect. So with this, we've been able to create the inverse, right? So this might still slow down the system a little bit, but compared to the camera, it's actually going to take so much more. Yeah, so we've been able to create that fake blur, right? And it's always at the center. So that's why we make sure that all our points always end towards the center, so that it to be sharp. And if I play this now, so I have to wait for this to render well, then I'll play. So you can see this in real time. You can see that what is always at the center is always looking sharp, and this is the result so far, right? So what I would like to do now is just to add some additional details, right? Like a little bit of camera shake, just to make the scene more dynamic. And I'm just quickly going to do that. I'm going to create another null. So I'm going to call this X shakes. I don't know how to really rename, so don't mind me. So right now I'm going to make sure that is the 3D of that is activated, and I'm actually going to parent, attach that to the camera control, to the extra shake. And in this, I just need to apply some wiggle expression to this. So for the position, I'll click P, and I'm going to alt click this and just do wiggle, then put in this values 0.5, 1, that's for the position. Then for the rotation, I'll press R for the rotation, and I'm just going to do this for the orientation. I'll do the same wiggle. Now I'll do 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. All this will do is to just give those extra shakes, right? To just make the scene more dynamic. So if I play this now, this is what we have. Right, you can see we have that subtle additional movement, right? And this is the end of the tutorial. Hey, I really hope you do enjoy that. If you do, make sure you do like it, and of course subscribe and click on the notification bell icon so that you can get real-time updates from me. And from me, that's it. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.